Hey, folks, welcome to another episode of Disgruntled with Richard and Jason. This week, I have a different idea for a show. We all know that there is a ton of BS going on within our communities all over the country, the border, the soldiers in the subways, all that malarkey. And I kind of, to be honest with you, am a little bit sick of talking about it, so I thought we'd take a week off of that. And today, I have this idea about one last chat, right? If you were able to have anybody walk into the room that you're sitting in, take off their hat or their jacket, set it down, and sit in the chair across from you and tell you, hey, you got 30 minutes, no question is off limits, what would you ask them? And so let's bring in Jason. Hello, sir.
Hi.
So today we are going to talk about who it is that what would you ask a person, anybody from history? Keep in mind this is a veteran-centric show, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a veteran or a military person, because I think that as veterans we have our own views about all these different topics and ways that things shake out. But I'm going to give you the honors, Jason. So if there was anybody that could walk through that door and give you 30 minutes of their time, who would it be? Who would you like it to be? And what would you ask them?
All right, man. So this is a really weird one, but it's Stormin Norman Schwarzkopf from the 91 invasion, the liberation of Kuwait into Iraq.
Okay. Well, first off, why is that weird?
Well, I don't know. I kind of feel like that when the liberation of Kuwait, it was an oddity. It was the first time that I believe you truly got to see a war being fought, number one, on television in real time. Like, to quote Dennis Leary, you could watch the war and eat a cheeseburger on the couch.
Yeah.
And that was pretty rad, right? And so, being a 12-year-old kid from the Midwest, it was pretty exciting that as the news was fading out, they would hit the news cycle, and there would be Stormin Norman. He would come in with that desert uni with those 4 gloriously shiny silver stars on each lapel. I mean, I can see the picture of him stomping his way across the podium to speak
with razor thin starch lines, mind you.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that was a uniform. We weren't wearing pajamas back then. It wasn't what we see now, right?
Yep.
And that dude would get out there and he would talk about what was going on, what the plan was. Now, granted, it was short, right? It was like less than a week this whole thing took.
Yes.
I mean, it was short, but it was awesome. Because it was all night, and you'd see these people, the stingers flying.
Yeah.
You'd see the Scuds bouncing into the hotels in Kuwait. And for me, the interesting part of that conversation would have to be like, why didn't you guys go do the job? Or how did you do it so efficiently? How did the political elites allow you to go in, do what you did, and then leave? Because as history has since it's repeated itself again, similar to Vietnam. We have a hard time leaving. Like, we'll show up for the party, but like, we're the last guys to leave the war party, like 20 years later,
It's like you're the drunk guy at the party that everyone tries to go put in a separate room to lay down because it's your time to take a nap.
It's just your time.
And you just get up and go back out to the party until somebody else finds you to put you to bed.
I didn't hear no bell. And so that was the interesting part to me. It was the first time that we got to see war on TV, from my era. I don't even think in Vietnam they showed much of that. I mean, people will say you get footage, that was probably doctored up or chopped up for the news, but we were watching it unfold live.
Yep.
And then because eventually, like you and I did, we were back there. That really wasn't that far removed. We're talking about 20-some years.
Yeah.
And so I think if Schwarzkopf were here, Those would have to be some of my questions.
Well, I think that I would ask a similar question. Probably not as detailed, because I'm a bit younger than you. So when that war went down, I wasn't in Pampers anymore. But 91, I was 8 years old or 9 years old or something like that.
As a 9-year-old, Richard Leonard didn't want to watch the war on TV.
No, man, I was playing Excite Bike and Super Dodgeball in the basement.
Nuts.
And going to football practice and basketball and baseball. And to be honest with you, I didn't watch a lot of TV or anything like that.
Okay.
But I would ask him a similar thing. After being a person who, of my own free will, joined the military, participated in combat operations, and in my opinion, quite intensely at times. How the hell did you run through that enemy in a week or two? Because my life experience in the military has taught me that these things take time. If you're going to do them right, it takes time. And I'm not here to say that we did it all right, that the USA did it all right, because I think that over time we've all learned what our failures as a military force were and or are. But these guys stomped a mud hole in the ass of their enemy in days. So, I mean, I would ask a similar thing.
Right. Well, I mean, what were the rules of engagement?
Yeah.
You know, what were they? I mean, was this truly, maybe this will be, and maybe that's what that question would lead to was, will that be the last real war? 'Cause that was a war. That was all out. Take it, get to the objectives, you know, literally a pragmatic march north. It was done like with obscene precision. Of course, you didn't get to see a lot of the melee or the carnage that came with it. But that's what the military should be doing. We're not a police force. You know, the fact that we go in and we do these, country rebuilds after the fact, I mean, that's just it's tomfoolery. That's not what we're
I
for.
wonder who came up with that, because didn't we, after World War II, rebuild much of Europe?
Europe, Japan.
And so after World War I, when things were decimated, did the United States military leave people behind to rebuild? I don't know.
I always think there's kind of a security force that's been left behind. But I think, you know, maybe World War II, that was probably the time frame where the political elites figured out that this was an opportunity to roll money into these foreign countries, build up businesses that could build their countries back. And it was probably the beginning of what we see now with the sheer amount of tax dollars going out of America into other countries. Boy, what an amazing way that it worked, right?
See, this is why I like to have these conversations. And folks, what I'll tell you is that Jason and I, and I'm sure Jason and many other people, and I and other people, have similar conversations all the time about things of this nature. But these are conversations that really kind of bring to light some of what, now knowing what we know, makes sense for back then. And I think that maybe you're onto something there when you say some politician or some rich guy or both figured out, well, hey, if we leave people behind, I'll send my people there to build homes. And this guy will send people there to build factories. Yep. We'll charge them to do that, of course, and we'll all make a bunch of money. Mm-hmm. And so I'd be interested to know, and maybe we should do some research on this, how big financially is the industry of rebuilding countries after they're destroyed.
Dude, well, you just think about it. Look at the money that we spent in Iraq and Afghanistan. That wasn't spent on pure military.
No,
It's
well,
bullshit.
I
that
hope
was
not.
that was DoD expenditures to build schools and other. Not that those are nonsense things. I almost said that, but what I mean is, you know, it's they're sending over the chosen companies to go build a a $3 million shithole school for some kids that they probably built for $45 with some local labor and pocketed the difference. And then it was spent under DOD guidance. And of course, I'm being purely speculative at this point, but yeah, I'm sure that's kind of that whole phraseology, the military-industrial complex, because it takes the military to destroy it. It takes the complex to rebuild it, and it takes the American taxpayer to pay the bill, both sides.
Well, and so this makes me think of this question. Is it the right thing to do? Is it the right thing to do after a time of war when we as a country, World War II, a good example, we as a country, everybody, the men, the women, the children, were committed to winning. Is it the right thing? And during that commitment, the idea was we are going to destroy everything and everybody that we need to complete our objective. So after we've committed to that and everybody's on board and we've rolled through places and displaced hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people because they were cooking dinner and all of a sudden the wall caved in because a tank was rolling through or whatever the case may be. Is it the right thing to do? Many people would say it's absolutely the right thing to do to rebuild it and give those people a place to live again. My question is this. If, for whatever reason, we would have lost World War II and Hitler was victorious, and then the fight came to America and we spent 4 or 5 years fighting off the Nazis at home and all of our cities were destroyed, would Hitler have left people behind to rebuild it when it was over?
I don't think there's ever been anyone other than the United States that does that.
Would Mussolini have rebuilt? Would Stalin have rebuilt our place? And so, of course, people like to say, well, we're Americans. We're better than that. And I guess to a certain extent, I would agree with that. But again, knowing what we know now and knowing how dirty our backyard is and how effed up things are in our own country and how polarized we are, does it make sense? And my gut instinct is, no, it doesn't really make sense at all. But I understand why we do it. Does that make sense?
It does, and I couldn't agree with you more. But I think the way in which we do it is similar to a Mussolini or to other historical people who have taken or conquered land and made it their own. It becomes their piggy bank. If World War II in Germany, and obviously we decimated city after city through carpet bombing, no question about that. But did we need to send our companies there to go do the thing? I would look back and say, invest in the German people, invest in the German companies to go rebuild their homeland. Not dissimilar to how we do it. I mean, you take a situation that was desolate, no positivity whatsoever. I mean, you're walking around in ruins, rocks, dirt, and death. And somebody else is going to come in and rebuild that for you. It sounds great, but if somebody would have given you the tools or the resources to do it yourself, for you to go build the company, to go build back that city, how much more impactful would that have actually been to the place that we destroyed?
Well, I think it would have been huge. But again, that's us knowing what we know now.
Right.
So, I don't know. I think, well, here we are again, off into the weeds. We're here to talk about old Schwarzkopf. and we're talking about rebuilding cities. This is a common this is a common theme here at Disgruntled, folks. We'll start with something and then we'll get off in the weeds. But I think it's all important because maybe this is a way for us to see how history really played out.
Right.
Right. I mean, there's been a lot of talk for a long time that our history books are wrong. The things that this country has done abroad are super effed up, and we haven't been taught correctly. And so I suppose we could say that one of the great things about modern technology is we have the ability to do some more research and see things for what they are, especially people of my age and people of your age also, Jason. I understand technology is tough to use sometimes, but it gives us the ability to really process that stuff and then think about it critically. Now that we have more life experience, and when we're 9, I think if I was 9, you were what, 15, 14, something like that?
91, I was 12.
Okay, so we're only a
I'm not
couple
that
years.
distinctly. The way that you portray me, it's Richie rolls me in every day in the chair, and the van comes to pick me up when we're done.
But for real, on its face, I would have a whole lot more questions if I could go back in time and be around during all this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. And the other part I wonder is, would we ever be able to really find the truth?
Well, I think that depends where your meeting is, right?
I suppose.
Is it here? Is it beyond? Is it in real time? I mean, it's a hypothetical conversation, but I assure you, if we had that conversation with Schwarzkopf in '92, right after, and he's cleaned up, and he's rolling out to the VA to collect his 10% for tinnitus,
From all the
sitting
cheering.
around the Pentagon, and, cigar smoking, and probably eating those Hardee's breakfast sandwiches out east. But I digress.
So good.
I think the conversation that he would have with us there would be different than maybe the retired 4-star general, 20 years removed, sitting out on the porch having a scotch. That's another conversation, and then beyond. That's where I think the reality always will come in when we get to know it all.
And so here's the thing, bro, is that's why I believe that having these discussions on this show, and that we should do this a lot more, are pretty impactful because nobody knows what he's thinking or what he was thinking at the time. And once you have time to process those things, I believe that your views can change, and that your perception of what the truth or what was BS or what was helpful can also change a whole lot. And there's probably many people in this country's history that we could have very constructive conversations about in this format. And so part of what I'll say here is, if you're watching this and you have some good ideas for us to talk about, any of these people from our history, I'm all for it. I don't know. Are you?
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, because there's even just this. I mean, we've only been recording this for 18 minutes, and I think we've already solved a huge problem in our nation's history.
So we've solved a problem.
Well, we've shed light on it. Maybe we haven't solved it.
Well, but I think it's even more, for anybody that's listening that's not a veteran, but for those of you that are, I challenge you to think about this, similar to what we just talked about with Schwarzkopf. Think about when you got home, when you started to, quote unquote, become normal, and where you are today. And where do you think you're going to be when you are fully retired, when you're fully out of it, when you're fully removed? I know personally, when I first got back versus 5 years, my perspective had changed greatly. And from that 5-year mark to today, again, a completely new revolution of thought has washed over me. Each and every time I think about certain situations, I notice that even my storytelling is different. It is. It's crazy, and I think there's those of you out there that hopefully somebody sees it and they think about it, and they go, "Holy shit!" Like, I got back and it was all, "Oh shit!" It was who of this, who of that, and all of a sudden it kind of softened, and all of a sudden there became questions. And I think as we find ourselves a few years removed from war, and we're staring at it on our front step again, I think the old quote unquote grizzled shitbag veteran is the one that could shed some light on, is it worth it?
Well, and I think that that's a perspective that is often not part of these conversations. And so that brings up a very good point. I wonder how the guys who were sleeping in the foxholes dug in the sand with the sand fleas and the heat and all that as they're waiting across that berm, but many of them never got the call because it was over.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm sure that there's all kinds of feelings about that. And so you're right. Once you get older, your ability to process the stuff is different. And I think part of the thing is, man, that we learn how to suffer differently, if that makes any sense. You get to a point, I think, where you live with, let's just say for conversation's sake, back pain, right? You learn how to live with that and adjust your lifestyle in a manner that allows you to still function. And once you find a sweet spot, that's where you're dancing.
Ride that groove.
Yeah. Right? Like Hitch. That's this is where you stay.
Right here, right here.
That's it. But we know for sure in the back of our minds that things could be a whole lot better. We could probably feel better. We could probably do more, but we're comfortable, right? And so you just learn how to suffer in silence and cope with those issues a little bit differently. It's very rare, if at all anymore in my life, that I turn to a bottle to numb whatever it is I'm feeling. When, to be quite honest, for a few years after my first deployment, that's exactly where I went daily. Dewar's Red, Dewar's Red whiskey.
What?
Made a ton of money on me.
What?
That was just my everyday sipper. So like when I got home from work and I was going to go up to the shower, I'd pour a Dewar's Red and have shower whiskeys.
Is this a quality whiskey or is this a quantity whiskey?
This is a quantity.
Okay.
But still tastes good, in my opinion. You get a handle of it for, I don't know, $28 or something. It's not expensive, and it's not fancy. But I had fancy stuff for when I had company or I was feeling special that day.
Okay.
But that's how I coped. That's how, after a day's work, if I was sore, or if I was mentally drained, right home, and first thing I did before I even took my jacket off was pour myself a couple fingers of scotch.
Wow. Okay.
And then after a while, it becomes, maybe I'll have 6 fingers of scotch today. And I was pouring my daily sipping scotch in a pint glass.
Well, I mean,
It would take me a while.
Yeah, take a 4-finger lid.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't even do that anymore at all. I mean, that's not my preferred method. I find a lot of comfort on my motorcycle. I find a lot of comfort playing golf, hanging out with my wife. I really like the casino a lot.
What?
Yeah, I like to play slot machines, all ringy dings and all that kind of thing.
Every time that he's unavailable and I get a phone call back, there's always casino action in the background.
Yeah.
But it's been lucky.
It has been.
When you and I are talking on the phone.
Yep.
There's something about that frequency.
I'm telling you, when I'm at the casino, if I'm there for a prolonged period of time, 4 hours or more, I'm giving you a call at some point. Because and if you want, I could pass you Jason's number. And anytime you're at the casino and you want to hear some ring-a-dings, you call this fella. Anything else? Anything else that you would like to ask Mr. Schwarzkopf if he were sitting here?
Actually, I would, and it would be make sure that you destroy all those Conex boxes of food, because we had to eat that shit in 2003, and I'm still pretty pissy about it. So
Yeah.
dump those Conex boxes,
Yeah.
Mr. Schwarzkopf.
I would like to find whoever it was that invented the MRE. Shake their hand, because some of them are good and the idea is great to keep soldiers fed, but also kick them in the groin at the same time, because whoever came up with the menu options, 90% of them are absolute garbage. And the man that decided, hey, we should put jambalaya in an MRE, that guy deserves a Pulitzer. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, see, we didn't even. I mean, we had MREs, but did you guys ever have the mess trailers?
Like the MCATs?
Yeah.
Or MKTs, rather?
Yeah.
Yeah, but not in country. We had them, at training in the woods.
Okay, so we actually had those in country. That was the first time when we were getting hot meals. And when I say literally we were eating the 91 food, these were Conex boxes with those metal trays. 20 years old, I guarantee. Well, we were wearing DCUs from 91. I'll show you pictures of all the crotch blowouts. I mean, we were wearing, like, I remember the first we hit ground and we were wearing these shitty old hard-soled canvas boots that were such trash. And any of you that deployed in this time frame, y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. These things will blow chunks like semi-treads being thrown at a fucking bridge crossing. Oh, I just said the F word. But
It's okay.
okay, we can omit. And you'd be running around with all this stuff. And it was funny, right? Because we could talk about it and we were doing this. And we were wearing flak vests from World War II. We literally looked like a joke everywhere that we went. But the food was the thing that still bothers me to this day.
Well,
because
hey,
it was all dated 88 to 92. It was nuts. But that birthday cake was delicious. And Bobby, if you're hearing this, you know what I'm talking about, because we stole like 20 of those things and we ate them like shithouse rats behind that Humvee until we were throwing up.
You were hunched over just shoving it in? Or
Oh,
what?
dude, it was like Schmiegel, and he found the ring.
Whose birthday was it? What is going on
Nobody's.
with birthday cake?
We found a Conex box with a bunch of food in it. And when we were going through the food, we found like 20 trays of birthday cake. And we took every one of them. We ran. We bolted.
From 93?
Yeah, dude. It was
What? Was it like sheet cake?
like a sheet cake. In
What?
the sealed trays that need to be spun open. Like if you think about like a can of tuna,
Yeah.
but just think about a can of tuna that's like 14 inches by 22 inches. And for those of you who have had the pleasure of eating this, please send pictures. Make
Yes,
sure Richie
please.
understands this, because now I do feel like I'm 106 years old comparative to you.
If the shoe fits.
It was just timing. Just timing.
Okay.
But you'd have to roll that thing open. I just remember taking our boot knives and just ripping on this tin until we got these things cracked open. And you didn't really know what was in there, but we figured out by density and tapping them, we found these birthday cakes, and they were fantastic.
Huh. Well, folks, you learn something every day. I had no idea that in 93 they're making birthday cake and putting it. Does the label say what the shelf life is on said birthday cake? Because I feel like, I suppose they make pound cake and MREs at say 25 years.
Oh yeah, bro. I mean, it's no different. It's all the same stuff. It was just higher volumes, because that's what they, obviously you're feeding a company size element.
Yeah.
Yep.
And folks, people wonder why vets of Jason's era have such bad guts.
Yeah, it's so hard to figure out.
I can tell you right now, it's from 25-year-old birthday cake. Well, it's not 25 now. It's a lot older, but holy cow. We didn't have birthday cake debacles. In fact, we got to put on our boots, carry your weapon over to the PX area and get Cinnabons.
I don't know. I did go back later, and it was much more Americanized, we could say.
There's nothing better than standing in 140-degree weather, eating a piping hot Cinnabon that's burning your hand, but you don't give a crap.
Like our friend Mr. Bowie.
Right, yes.
By the dozens.
At some point, you guys will all get to meet Mr. Bowie. Okay, well, I think we've beat this one to death. So,
Done.
Stormin Norman Schwarzkopf, you have some explaining to do, some questions to answer. Not that you're on the hot seat, but the regular guy veterans just want to know. They want to know different things because we weren't privy to all battle plans and all that. It was, hey, get in your trucks or assemble yourselves and go here, do this, and then when you're done, come back. So all those conversations that a 4-star general would have about how to conduct an operation in a forward area, I don't know what that conversation's like. But I do know that both you, Jason, and I were the product of those conversations at some point in our military career. And I think it'd be great to just know what those things are. So if we could only get in front of Storm and Norman. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you next week. Good night.